In this video, we are talking about the Texas Hill Country, and in regards to scenery, quite possibly one of the most beautiful places in the state of Texas, large enough spanning multiple cities and towns. A relocation haven, if you will. A number of celebrities have lived there, numerous Californians like to migrate there, and of course, a lot of local Texans prefer to reside there. But is it right for you? Let's find out. Hey again, everybody. This is Frank with the team of agents at JB Goodwin Realtors. Each and every week, we put out tons of new content about living in Austin, Texas, the good and the bad. So consider subscribing if you haven't already and ring the little bell to get notified whenever we put out a new video. In addition to that, we love the reach outs we get now all the time from people just like you in need of our help when relocating to Austin, Texas. So keep them coming. Don't hesitate. Whether you're 9 days away or 90, shoot our team a text, send us an email, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day. All right, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of the Texas Hill Country and whether or not it is right for you, let's just do a little bit of an overview, a brief summary, if you will, of the area for those of you who don't know. So it is exactly what it sounds like. In the state of Texas, which is for a long time primarily just been farm and ranch land, very flat, there is a part of the state of Texas that is hill country. Rolling hills, beautiful homes, loads of amenities, and gorgeous views as well. But what many people don't know is that it's not unique or local just to Austin, Texas. It is a large part of the state of Texas, which itself is quite huge, and it covers a variety of areas such as Fredericksburg, New Braunfels, San Marcos, San Antonio, Dripping Springs, Bee Cave, Westlake Hills, Lakeway, The Hills, so on and so forth. It really is not a place that can be defined by proximity to a certain city in particular. And in addition to that, the location of the Texas Hill Country to many people is the unofficial border, if you will, between the American Southwest and the American Southeast, if you look at the map and see exactly where it is located in the state of Texas. And what attracts a lot of people to the Texas Hill Country is that it's obviously not going to remind you very much of your average suburb. It is going to be a certain lifestyle that you could perhaps compare to suburban living, but it is going to be in a place that feels more like a retreat or more like a vacation. And in a lot of cases, while its affordability is of course above average, in some respects it is going to be a little bit cheaper than you might expect. Obviously, yes, you're going to have multi-million-dollar properties in the Texas Hill Country, but a lot of it is going to be in the upper hundreds of thousands, which we'll talk about a little bit more in depth later in this video. So for a lot of people, it is quite attractive, but it's not always the perfect fit. And to answer why, let's get into the details. For starters, let's talk about its location. And because this is a Living in Austin, Texas channel, we are going to talk about its location, at least relevant more so to Austin, Texas itself. So forgive me if I'm not really going to be exploring the San Antonio locations of it, the New Braunfels locations of it, etc., etc. We are going to be dissecting more so the Texas Hill Country that is close enough to Austin, Texas in this specific case. So for starters, throughout the greater Austin area, if you are wanting to live in the Texas Hill Country, your options are going to look a little bit like either Dripping Springs, they're going to look like Bee Cave, they're going to look like the Westlake Hills, Lakeway, The Hills, and in some cases even Leander, Texas in certain parts, and other suburbs as well that kind of creep into the overall area of the Texas Hill Country. And what does this look like in relation to either the tech corridor or, more importantly, downtown Austin, Texas, where a lot of people will either be working or playing? Well, in the case of Dripping Springs, in the case of Lakeway, in the case of Bee Cave, these different areas that are technically part of the Texas Hill Country, on average, in terms of miles, it's going to look like between about 17 miles on the low end, upwards to maybe 23 to 25 miles. So right in the middle, that median, you could just call it on average about 20 miles from where all the magic happens, from where all the fun is in Austin, Texas. And factoring in a little bit of traffic, it is going to be, I'd say on average, between 30 and 40 minutes. So that might be great for people who are used to very long commutes from either California or New York City in that case, where they are used to drives of at least an hour, close to 2 hours for their commute every single day. So that could be a breath of fresh air for a lot of people, but it might not be, especially because what makes the Texas Hill Country so enticing is the fact that it's kind of, like I mentioned, a retreat, if you will. So yes, you are going to have loads of amenities, but if you get tired of those, if you get bored of those, or if those just don't necessarily align with what you like to do in your day-to-day and you want more things to do, you're looking at a drive that is going to be at minimum 30 minutes each and every time. So just keep that in mind. Lastly, what I'll say on the subject of its location is that the Texas Hill Country doesn't really have any major employers. So if you are not going to be working from home and you are going to be commuting to, say, corporate downtown Austin or the tech force in North Austin near the Domain, that can be a little bit of a hiccup, especially if you are someone who perhaps is used to a commute of maybe 10 or 15 minutes, or maybe you cycle to work. You never know what walks of life people come from, but it could be a turnoff since it's not really super duper close to the city in that case. So just something to keep in mind. Next up, I am briefly going to touch on the subject of schools because a lot of the clients we help relocate to Austin, Texas are doing so with their families. So in the case of the Texas Hill Country, in relation to Austin specifically, if you're looking at Dripping Springs, Bee Cave, Lakeway, the Hills, so on and so forth, a majority of those towns are going to be zoned for the Lake Travis Independent School District. I think the only one that might differ is specifically the Westlake Hills, which is your multi-million-dollar real estate. That is going to be a smaller district called the Eanes Independent School District, but otherwise we are talking about the Lake Travis Independent School District. And in the case of the Lake Travis Independent School District, it is very well respected. They do regularly win awards and rank within the top school districts in the greater Austin area. But in the spirit of transparency, since we keep it pretty honest and blunt on this channel, it's not going to be the top echelon, if you will, of school districts in the greater Austin area, such as perhaps the Eanes Independent School District that I just mentioned, in addition to Round Rock and Leander, which are going to be larger districts themselves. Round Rock and Leander serve each on average between 30 and 40,000 students, and they are zoned for very large areas as well. So you could live in a number of different suburbs and still be zoned for them if you want your kids in arguably the best public schools in the greater Austin area. But back to Lake Travis, on average, they are going to serve, I'd say, around 11,000 students each year. And according to niche.com, they are going to get a letter grade of an A, which is very respectable as well. So it's not like you're going to one of these mediocre districts. It is very respectable. But if you are a parent who really prioritizes your kids going to the cream of the crop best schools in all of Austin, the Texas Hill Country might not be the best option for you. Moving right along, we're going to talk about the things to do in the Texas Hill Country. And it is going to be very different from Austin, Texas, which could be great news for people, or it could be not so great news for people, depending on what you like to do. So in Austin, you're obviously going to have a number of museums, art exhibits, comedy theaters, music venues, avocado on toast type of deals, you know what I mean? Lots of murals and scooters and bicycles and things to do that really make Austin, Texas, where people like to come and participate, and what makes the city so enticing for many people. But in the case of the Texas Hill Country, yes, you're going to have your distilleries, you're going to have your wineries, your vineyards, and your small towns, your local bars, but a majority of the things to do in the Texas Hill Country are going to look a lot like barbecue, waterfalls, parks, lakes, caverns, wells, really just slower paced, nature-based activities for people who like to reside there, who like to be, as I mentioned, a little bit away from the city, the hustle and bustle. So it could be a pro if that really is your flavor of life or the types of things you like to do, but it could be something that really just doesn't resonate with you, which is why some people might look at the Texas Hill Country and be attracted to it for its scenery and its rolling hills and things of that nature, pun intended, but maybe are a little bit turned off by what it doesn't offer. So I just thought I'd be honest and lay it out for you. Now, real quickly, before we move on, drop a comment down below with any questions for us, or if we've been providing any value for you, consider liking this video as well. Remember to subscribe, and lastly, share this with anyone you know who's wanting to learn more about living in Austin, Texas. Lastly, in regards to the Texas Hill Country, we are going to talk about its affordability, which I would assume is what a majority of you watching this video are most interested in. So in the case of the Texas Hill Country, whether it's Dripping Springs, Bee Cave, Lakeway, the Hills, so on and so forth, it really is going to start around $800,000. And so for a lot of people, that might be an automatic, nope, can't do it, won't do it. But for a lot of people, depending on which walk of life you come from and what your budget is, that is quite enticing for what you get. So for example, a lot of the people who love to relocate to the Texas Hill Country are coming from California, right? And what $800,000 can perhaps buy you in certain parts of California is really what you can already find in, say, Georgetown, Leander, Cedar Park, Pflugerville, Round Rock for maybe $500,000 or $600,000 instead, with more space and more amenities and better schools. So already, yes, people are coming here for the bang for your buck. But when you look at what you get in the Texas Hill Country for $800,000 compared to what you're probably already spending $800,000 on in California, your options really open up, and it is a fair trade-off. It's less densely populated, and people just like to move to Texas for a number of reasons, which we are not really getting into specifically in this video. But yes, you can understand why so many people are enamored by a price tag that starts in the 800,000s. Now, don't get me wrong, that is where it starts. You might be able to find something beneath that, of course. I'm not saying it's exclusively 800 and up, but that is going to be your median for that area. In addition to that, I will say it gets very steep from there. I mean, just the other day I was looking at a $2.7 million home near Bee Cave in the Texas Hill Country. So just keep that in mind. And lastly, on the subject of affordability and the Texas Hill Country itself, I will mention its abundance of new build construction. So in the past year alone, the Texas Hill Country has seen quite a boom in people wanting to relocate there. It's as if it was kind of a hidden gem, if you will, not super hidden, but kind of under the radar for a while, and now it's starting to get a lot more attention. So developers are really just popping out new build homes. One of my favorite communities, for example, is called Sweetwater, and there's going to be gorgeous new build homes, new construction that are built literally on the hills. There's scenery everywhere you look, loads of amenities. So a lot of people who are not necessarily wanting to get pre-owned, even though a lot of you do wish for that, a lot of people in our experience prefer new construction. So if you are desiring that and you have your eye on the Texas Hill Country, worry not. There are an abundance of communities that are just being spat out in that region. So there you have it. The Texas Hill Country, for many of the aforementioned reasons, is a perfectly desirable place for many people to live, but also for the aforementioned reasons, it just might not be the right fit. And hopefully in this video, we've helped you arrive at your own conclusion as to whether or not it's right for you. With the rolling hills and the views and the amenities and the things to do, it could be right up your alley. And given what you get for what you pay, you could argue, despite its high price tag, it is relatively affordable. But whether or not the Texas Hill Country is right for you, that is what we are here for. We love helping people just like you relocate to Austin, Texas, finding that perfect spot and making your move as smooth as possible. But the only way we can do that is, again, by you reaching out to us. So don't hesitate, whether you're 9 days away or 90, reach out to our team, whether you shoot us a text, send us an email, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day. And again, we put out tons of new content each and every week about living in Austin, Texas, the good and the bad. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already and ring the little bell to get notified whenever we put out a new video. Comment down below with any questions for us. Consider liking the video as well if we've been providing any value for you. Share it with anyone you know. And until the next one, you guys, my name is Frank. This is Living in Austin, Texas, and we'll absolutely catch you later.